of the business day. Consultants to tackle municipal debt crisis. This is the South African Local Government Association, SALGA, which acts as a representative voice of all 257 municipalities in the country, is hunting for credible solutions to plug revenue leakages and improve revenue collection, with cash owed to councils fast approaching the 500 billion rand mark. The search has now taken it down the consultancy route, and it's issued a request for proposals, which is a formal document that is inviting vendors to submit custom bids on how SALGA can go about tackling this problem. 500 billion rand, that is a lot of money. Be fine. Wind light northwesterly in the morning, otherwise moderate northerly to northeasterly, 14 and 26. Pietermaritzburg, morning fog, otherwise fine, a low of 7, a high of 25.
In case you're on the highway, driving to your first big maize delivery, and something mysterious happens. You stop at the garage to scope the damage. You realize the fuel's in your car. You panic. But then you take a deep breath. Because you know Hino Care Gap Cover is there to cover anything outside the standard 6-year warranty. From steering columns to ABS control modules, it's the unseen essential in your business. Speak to your Hino dealer. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
This is what progress sounds like. At South African Airways, we've added more aircraft to the runway, increased our flights from just over 1,000 in 2021 to over 24,000 last year. And we continue to add more destinations and routes. It's steady progress over time. We know there's still work to do, but every day we're building something stronger. An airline that shares the resilience of the country it carries. South African Airways. Book your next flight at flysaa.com today.
Electricity theft and network vandalism doesn't just damage power lines, it leaves communities without electricity. Eskom remains committed to improving network reliability and a sustainable electricity future. Smart meters reduce energy losses, improves network performance, and helps to eradicate load reduction. Say yes to smart meters and help build a reliable electricity network. Eskom, redefining for a better future.
The Global Briefing on SAfm.
Well, let's start here on the Global Briefing this morning. It's 23 after 6 o'clock. Washington and Ottawa have failed to land a trade deal, and a new 50% U.S. tariffs now hang over roughly $20 billion worth of Canadian goods. Dr. Benjamin Spatz is a lecturer at the University of Cape Town Graduate School of Business. He joins me this morning. Thanks for your time this morning, Dr. Spatz. Firstly, the U.S. and Canada looked like they were close to signing a deal. What ultimately broke down? And is the 50% tariff a bargaining tactic, or are we likely to actually see it come into play?
Yeah, good morning, Cathy. This is a real trouble point in global economics, particularly in relation to the U.S. and Canada. And I think first, it's good just to get a reminder of the context of how we even got here, given that the U.S. and Canada trade relationship is one of the largest globally and one of the most integrated. These are long-standing partners. So what happened here just over the weekend was the latest in about a year of back and forth that started when Trump took office in 2025, and he unilaterally began trade wars with essentially every country in the world, including Canada and including South Africa as well. Tariffs are a main part of these kind of economic coercion. So what happened over the weekend was that as these discussions, these negotiations around the trade barriers and the trade relationship between US and Canada were going back and forth, that ultimately Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney pulled his negotiators a few hours before Saturday's deadline because he was saying that the US was imposing, or Trump was imposing, unreasonable last-minute demands that impinged on Canadian sovereignty. So he pulled the negotiators. And so that's where we are right now.
Geesh, and when you think about it, who's going to feel it first, right? Is it going to be the exporters, workers, and consumers? And are there specific sectors that are more exposed than others?
It's a great question. And it really comes down to the fact that trade wars hurt. They hurt a broad swath of consumers and businesses, and they hurt the longer that they go on. Now, it's not quite clear what will ultimately happen with this 50% threat that's, kind of hanging over Canada, as you say, but, trade wars do hurt. And what happens is that tariffs increase the costs of imports. And so businesses that do business across borders increase their costs. Those new costs are very rarely absorbed by the businesses themselves. They pass those costs on to consumers with higher prices. And in the context of inflation, that really hurts. And so what we're likely to see here is, a lot of higher prices, higher costs of doing business. And in particular, this might last some time because all wars, whether they're trade wars or physically violent wars, they're really about who can absorb the most pain. And the U.S., being a very large economy, of course, can inflict a great deal of pain on Canada. But Canada, through polls and statements by the Prime Minister, looks like they're more willing to absorb the costs than U.S. consumers and voters.
And then let's move on then to Russia, where Ukrainian strikes on refineries, they've been felt in petrol queues and emergency imports. Now, we know Russia is a major energy producer. So how significant is it that these strikes are now producing the kind of queues that we're seeing?
Yeah, this is another really serious disruption in the world in terms of global trade, and it's really impacting Russia directly through these strikes. I mean, this is very serious. There's petrol rationing across Russia. There's long queues. Petrol stations are running out of fuel, and this isn't going to be likely increasingly a problem for Russia, even though, as you say, they're a global producer of petroleum products, but they aren't able to meet the demand now in relation to these increasing strikes from Ukraine.
And then we'll wrap it up with the Panama Canal, right? We're seeing lower water levels, and that's meaning fewer ships. It's another climate shock that's moving directly into freight costs. Let's look at what the implications of this might be.
Yeah, so all three of these stories are about increasing costs and disruptions to global trade. And this story really is one that's going to impact South Africans directly, actually. So, El Nino is a natural weather pattern that has global implications. Right now, that the implication is a drought in Panama, and the Panama Canal, which sees about 5% of global trade, is limiting the number of ships that can go through at the moment. Now, most of that trade is done in the Americas, through the Panama Canal itself in that region. But the reason that this is going to have compounding effects globally is not just because obviously it's yet another, choke point that we're seeing under stress, like the Strait of Hormuz and others, but in particular, this is an indication of the costs of extreme weather and climate change. And while El Nino is going to continue to cause a drought in the Americas, most likely, it's also expected to increase the temperatures and decrease the rainfall in South Africa this upcoming summer season, which is likely to have implications for fires and other climate-related issues, just in a few months for us here.
Benjamin, I was doing just fine this Monday morning until you drew the link, right, between all three stories and the risk of costs going up. We just can't catch a break, can we?
Well, we need to stay optimistic, and I hope all the listeners are still doing that. But the best thing we can do is plan ahead, knowing the risks.
Dr. Benjamin Spat, Senior Lecturer at the University of Cape Town Graduate School of Business. All right, it is now 6:30, time for your latest news headlines.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, alleged criminal kingpin Vuzumuzi Cathy Mohlahlana is expected to return to the Matlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria this morning. When he appeared before the commission last week, he refused to answer questions relating to the 228 million rand SAPS Medicare 24 tender. Western Cape Police say they've arrested two men in connection with the killing of the former Knysna mayor, Aubrey Tsengwa. He was shot dead while on his way home last Wednesday night. And police have made 2 more arrests in connection with the killing of the former 2-division boxing world champion Zolani Tete, putting the total number of people in police custody at 3. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's back to business this Monday morning with some heavy traffic on Joburg's Mike 1 coming in from Gold Reef City all the way through to Empire Road. Once you get past that, there's more queues heading up towards Glenhove Road through that Houghton Estate area. N3 jamming from Elands through to Van Buren. That's a heavy queue early this morning. Points to sort of big volume Monday, I guess, if that's an indication. Pretoria, the run through Dustford Tunnel, and then again down Transorania towards Vom Hagen. Very slow. Eskiem Pathlani into Marabastad heading into Pretoria CBD. Quite busy as well. Durban, watch for that fallen tree between Queensborough and, between North Dean and Queensborough on the M7 towards the Bluff. N2 North is now backing up through Spaghetti Junction. That's, again, just probably a little bit earlier than normal for that heaviness. And a breakdown on the southbound side. Usual spot there between Umgena and Spaghetti Junction, causing some delays down towards 4 level. Cape Town, N2 inbound, slow, passing Khayelitsha towards the airport. More queues through to Rappenberg Road. And the M7 is just under a bit of pressure this morning as you make your way up through Mitchell's Plain. The R300 getting onto the M7 out of Mitchell's Plain direction, Philippi, quite slow as well. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
It's 6:32. You're still tuned into the national briefing. Zai Khan. So what a weekend it was. I was so depressed on Saturday.
Yeah,
But-
we're coming to that.
But there is a team that's definitely not depressed, and that's Golden Arrows, because they stunned Sundowns in an MTN upset.
Whew, Golden Arrows. I mean, Cathy, reminding everyone, you know what, in a cup, there's that cup set, Reputation doesn't score goals, and nobody told Arrows that they were the underdog.
Hello, can you say that again? I mean, Golden Arrows, I hope they were listening to that. That's definitely a tagline they should be using.
Well, that's it, Cathy. That's why they play the game, And I think we have a way also of ignoring the script, and so did Golden Arrows yesterday. What a win. Surprising everyone this weekend, beating Mamelodi Sundowns 1-0, first leg of their MTN8 semi-final at Lucas Moripa Stadium. Junior Dion's first half strike proving the difference, giving Abafana Bastende a valuable advantage ahead of next weekend's return leg. Here's their coach, Pitso Dladla.
We also did well when we were in possession. There were moments where we were able to put passes together. There were also moments where we created chances from the turnovers, from the counter-attacks. Believe if we could have done better, we could have gotten 1 or 2 goals. But one should be honest, towards the end of the game, halfway in the second half, we defended too deep.
Now, Manchester City survived an early scare to begin Enzo Maresca's era with a dramatic 2-1 Premier League victory over Bournemouth. Marcus Tavernier gave Bournemouth the lead before late strikes by Marcus Gay and Josko Vardiol completed the comeback and handed Maresca a winning league debut. Now, Dominic Szoboszlai converted a 96-minute penalty to rescue a 2-2 draw for Liverpool against Newcastle United at St James Park. And still with football, Mohamed Salah enjoyed a dream first Super League start, scoring twice as Trabzonspor beat Istanbul Başakşehir 2-1. The Egyptian, who joined the Turkish club after 9 seasons at Liverpool, thought he'd completed a hat-trick, and that was deep into stoppage time, only for the goal to be ruled offside. Rugby is back to the drawing board for the Springboks, but not to panic, they say. Coach Rassie Erasmus says the All Blacks, they deserved Saturday's 33-16 victory at Ellis Park, yet he insists the series is far from over. The defeat ended South Africa's 12-match winning streak and cost the Boks top spot in the world rankings, but Erasmus believes his side can still win the remaining 3 tests. And let's go now to more news, and this time it's motorsport. Lando Norris claiming back-to-back Formula One victories after McLaren's bold strategy earned him the Dutch Grand Prix. Verstappen Verstappen crashed out on the opening lap, while Norris fought back to beat Mercedes' Kimi Antonelli after a perfectly executed tyre strategy. George Russell completed the podium, and Lewis Hamilton just missing out in fourth. So that's where we leave it for now. In the Formula One pits, we'll have more top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Market Brief with Ndauleng Lechela on SAfm.
It's 6:36. You're still tuned in to the national briefing. All right, Ndauleng, we're seeing Alibaba. They're seeking 10 billion rand from investors. This is to bankroll AI. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. You're absolutely right there. Alibaba is tapping investors for about $10.2 billion. This is to fund its AI ambitions, even as the spending is already weighing heavily on its bottom line. Now, the Chinese tech giant is issuing about 710 million new shares, with all the net proceeds earmarked for expanding its full-stack AI capabilities and infrastructure. Now, the move comes after capital expenditure jumped 75% in the June quarter, sending net profit plunging around a similar margin. Alibaba has committed to $56.4 billion to AI and cloud infrastructure over 3 years and says demand is shortening the expected payback period on that investment. Still in the East, Shein's valuation is under scrutiny, plunging from nearly $100 billion in 2022 to about $27 billion today. Now, the fast fashion giant is being squeezed by higher tariffs, tighter regulation, rising costs, and tougher competition, while growth has slowed sharply. Now, revenue over in the US fell 14.3% in the first quarter after the removal of a duty exemption for low-value imports, while Shein expects first half revenue growth to remain around 1.1%. Now, its Hong Kong IPO will raise up to $1.77 billion, but the bigger story is investors demanding proof that Shein can grow profitably without relying on conditions that fueled its explosive rise. Now, the company will make its market debut on the 1st of September. Now, tracking equity markets, Wall Street closed higher on Friday, helped by stronger than expected U.S. business activity as well as corporate earnings, although elevated bond yields continued to weigh on sentiment. In Asia, markets are trading cautiously this morning, with investors focused on oil prices, U.S. sanctions on Iran, and the outlook for interest rates. Here at home, the JSE closed sharply on Friday, with gains in resources helping lift the market. The broader mood remains cautious as geopolitical tensions keep oil elevated and investors await NVIDIA's results and signals from the Fed at Jackson Hole. Looking at currency markets, the rand trading stronger at 16 to the dollar, 21.83 to the pound, and 18.68 to the euro. I'll hit pause on that note and hand over to you, Cathy, for the business tip of the day.
All right, Ndauleng, thanks for that. In fact, we have no business tip for this morning. But of course, Ndauleng will be back at 7:30 with a latest look at your market update.
Africa in Focus with Advocate Sipho Mantula on SAfm.
A refreshing morning to you, Advocate Mantula. This morning we're going to start off in the DRC. We have the former president, Joseph Kabila. He's challenging the United States sanctions in court.
Refreshing morning, this is Cathy and Jumbo Africa to the listeners across the African continent. Indeed, Cathy, you'll recall that Kabila has been listed by the U.S. Treasury. So we'll say he was blacklisted for his role that they are alleging that Kabila has been offering support to the M23 rebels who took the Congo East region of Goma last year in 2025. Now, Kabila is contending that these reports or these allegations are not unsubstantiated, meaning that he says that, but there's nothing that they can prove against him. Hence, Kabila, he said that he has never transferred any money or he has any political interest in the M23 group. You'll recall also, Katie, that Kabila was sentenced to death in absentia for treason and other charges over his role with M23 by the Congolese military court. It seems Kabila is still somewhere around the Southern Africa region, Casey, but the issues he's fighting with the U.S., it is all about his removal from the U.S. Treasury blacklisting.
And then in Tanzania, I mean, it's quite peculiar, some of the developments that we're seeing out of Dar es Salaam, right? We now have the opposition leader, Tundu Lissu. He's denouncing the political case as his treason trial begins. And I want you to please also set the context under which Lissu is now being charged with treason.
Cathy, you will recall the 2025 elections in Tanzania went sour. They didn't go very well. But his arrest dates back even the times of the late President Magufuli, actually. This is an activist, a lawyer, a political leader of an opposition. He has survived attempted assassination in 2017. He returned from exile in 2023. 2024 is pushing for the election. 2025 is being arrested on allegations of treason. Now, what happened in the court on Friday was to say that you have a case to answer now. And Tundu Lissu say, I'm not going to seek for a lawyer. I'm going to represent myself, and I will also call the defense witnesses, including the sitting president, Samia Suluhu. This will be an interesting trial, Katie, considering what has happened in Tanzania. You'll recall last year almost 500 people were killed during the elections. During and post, there were many people who were killed in those elections. So he has been allegedly charged on those allegations that his party were calling for no reforms, no elections. So that's that context, Casey, and that clarity to say, Lissu, he will still represent himself without any lawyers.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be one to keep a close eye on. And then back home, we have UNISA in collaboration with DIRCO, the Department of International Relations and Cooperation. They're hosting a town hall this morning with young people under the theme Youth and Diplomacy, remembering June 16.
Kathy, you'll recall that June 16, as SAfm and SABC have been hunting it for 50 years, but now the context of this is that recall 12th of August, it was known as International Youth Day. The African Union has set aside the Africa Youth Day on the 1st of November. South Africa is June 16, but the context of this seminar and this town hall with youth is to look at the role that was played by the international community in assisting the generation of June 16. You'll recall many more who went exile. They were assisted by the international community. The June 16 debate was at the UN level. It was at the AU level. So I think today the youth diplomacy session is to just reflect back and also look at the role of, women also, Katie, women who were in the struggle of 76 and looking at diplomacy now. What are the opportunities for them and what are the issues globally and geopolitical? So this is an interesting session, Katie, to be at UNISA from 9 o'clock until late afternoon at ZK Matthews.
And in terms of our political archive, we're looking at the 24th of August, 1960.
Today she's 56, and I hope she's listening, Katie. She's a vivid listener of SAfm. You'll recall SAfm invited her to give a lecture at some point. Received a military training in Angola and in Russia, in Cuba. He was in the ANC under the guidance of Joe Gabi, the ANC chief representative in Zimbabwe, meaning she was exiled also in Zimbabwe. She studied at the University of Western Cape. This is the woman that we talk about, Geraldine Fraser Moleketi, born in Cape Town, daughter of a teacher and a factory worker. Very important to give that context, Katie. We did want to play some clip of him talking about the role of women. Remember, it's still Women's Month. So we are still harvesting these great women, these African women who have played their role in the struggle of the 70 years as well as the 32 years. She was a former minister, by the way, Katie, in 1999 of welfare and population development as well as public administration. So we say happy birthday to Ms. Geraldine Fraser Moleketi. Asante sana, Katie.
To save money, you cancel subscriptions before the free trial ends. So why not spend 10 minutes getting an OUTsurance car insurance quote like 34-year-old Pretty, who saves
338 Rand. And I'm here to stay.
That's an awesome 338 Rand saving on Pretty's 2025 Kia Sonet. Do it now. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. OUTsurance saves 48-year-old Adam an unbelievable 1,803 Rand on his 2020 Audi Q3.
1,803 Rand. Big drop. If you haven't had a valuation on your premiums for a while, it's worth going to OUTsurance.
You also get 5 million Rand third-party liability cover, covering damage to the other person's vehicle in an accident. How much money could OUTsurance save you? Get a quote now. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insured FSP. TCs and information online.
Durban, the promenade is calling and the purple wave is taking over the East Coast. It's time to lace up for the Hollywood Bets Durban 10-kilometer road race on Sunday, 30 August. The race covers the beautiful tour of the city, combining urban streets, scenic coastal roads, and stunning beachfront stretches with views of the Indian Ocean. Catch all the action live on SABC2 and SABC Plus from 7 a.m. on Sunday, 30th of August. The Hollywood Bets Durban 10-kilometer road race, brought to you by SABC Sports.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, happy Monday. It's back to work on the Mic 1 with some big volumes coming through Joburg on your way to Santa. There's the usual queues between Ormonde and Smith Street, Empire Road, and then you stay in traffic right through to 11th Avenue. There's an issue on the highway, 11th Avenue, sort of Houghton Estate, Killarney area. So big traffic this morning coming through from Gold Reef City side, up through Boyson's, the Crown, and up through that Brownfontein, Parktown area. Very slow if you're a Santon bound. Make sure you've got plenty of time to get through that. N3 queuing up at Spraidview, N17 West queuing at Rondebolt Road into the roadworks there, and the N1 South in Pretoria just slow this morning, coming through some construction area between Storenville Road and the split to the N4 Emily Highway. Durban, it's an early start to the heavy backlogs on the N2 going north, jam-packed this morning from the M7 through to Westwood Mall. Southbound, there's a broken down vehicle complicating matters between Umgedi and Spaghetti, so that's queuing. Lane restrictions between Dunkeld Road and Reservoir Hills. That could be fairly long-term. The M19 is the first weekday morning that you'll be driving into those delays. Just a single lane section holding up towards Durban side, and Cape Town pretty busy this morning on the N2 inbound. Traffic under pressure from the airport right through to Mowbray Main. The N1 backlogging from Belleville down Plattercliff Hill and in towards that Sable Road exit at Century City. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
Mavis, I wonder if I should sell my car. I'm not sure where to go.
Wanna sell your car, but don't know what to do. You don't have to go far, we come to you. If you're rolling on a 1.5 or a Lacquer 2.2, doesn't matter what you drive, we buy cars once you.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
The National Briefing on SAfm with Cathy Mohlahlana.
It's 6:49. You're still tuned into the National Briefing. Let's take a look at this story now. 3.5 million Rand. That is what the Johannesburg High Court ordered a man and his wife to pay their victim after they set up a fake Facebook profile in her name, posted intimate images and videos of her on it, recorded without her knowledge, and then invited her family, friends, and colleagues to come and have a look. The court found that this was an assault on her dignity, her privacy, and her sexual integrity. It also made a point that travels well beyond the courtroom, and that a fake account can be traced, and anonymity online is not protection. Fulufelo Jessica Ramatiti is director at Ramatiti Attorney. She's a cyber lawyer and commissioner of the Small Claims Court. Fulufelo, good morning to you. Thanks for your time this morning. Look, when we look at the details of this case, number one, quite jaw-dropping, right, that you would have the circumstances play out in the way they did, but set out the legal architecture for us quite plainly. What is the full impact of this court finding?
Good morning, Cathy, and all the listeners of SAfm. Thank you so much for having me today. The ruling is very encouraging, actually, to boost confidence in terms of reporting such matters. Because remember, Cathy, most times people don't want to face this type of situations. Once your pictures are trending online, the typical response to it from a victim is to deactivate the accounts, block the specific persons, and not want to deal with it. So when you see such case precedent, it's very encouraging to people to feel confident enough to report such matters, take it to the police, take it to cyber lawyers. You can have a dual action against the perpetrators, which is your civil action and your criminal action against the said persons. So in terms of the legal steps, it's quite simple, actually. You just need to get in contact with the cyber law experts who know how to uncover the fake or anonymous Facebook accounts that are being used to distribute your nude pictures, your intimate videos. You need to be able to be guided to go to police stations that can guide you and give you guidance on how to report certain criminal charges against such individuals. So once you're able to set off that system, the experts are able to just take over the issues or take over the matters, and they're able to assist you moving forward. The layperson doesn't need to know all the steps. You just need to know where to go.
I was going to say, because this judgment was a civil claim and a default one at that, there are survivors who simply cannot afford to sue. So where then should people go?
When it comes to such cases, you can get lawyers who can assist you on a contingency fee agreement, meaning that they're willing to assist you without you paying the legal cost, provided that they're able to take their 25% at the end of the ruling. So you just need to approach certain offices that will be able to take your personal circumstances into account, that economically you cannot afford to pay or to fund this litigation against a certain individual.
Fulufelo, it can be quite traumatic for individuals who found themselves in this situation. Your images are already up online. That infringement on dignity, as the court has recognized, has already taken place. What are some of the first things that you encourage those who experience this kind of victimization to do, especially in the first hour when they begin to see those images?
Firstly, I would say try to get an urgent interdict. This can be assisted in terms by a lawyer specifically to send an interdict to companies such as X or Meta that such information should be stopped from being distributed any further. And thereafter, you're able to do a request in terms of PIA, where you request the information of that individual so that you can bring them into an agent court and have them to be ceased from continuing to distribute intimate pictures. Cathy, another important case that we need to think of is the recent case for 2026. It was reported on the 16th of February this year in Newcastle, wherein there was actually a criminal matter against an individual who did the exact same thing, but he was sentenced 2 years of direct imprisonment. So I think people need to find the confidence now more than ever to even go to the police station and ask them if they have certain sections in that police station that are capable to investigate these matters so that they can give them the information they need to be able to also proceed with civil actions.
Fellow Jessica Ramatsitsi, let's leave it there. Thank you for your time, Director at Ramatsitsi Attorney. So certainly do not take it, lying down when it comes to some of these matters of online victimization. There are cases in the law where there is some form of recompense. At least it never fully makes up for the way in which one's dignity is violated, right? But it certainly is a start in preventing these kind of activities in future.
Cathy Mohlahlana is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAfm Radio.
Well, let's turn to this story now. The former Vice-Chancellor Adam Habib says Helen Zille is the only candidate with the record to rescue the city of Johannesburg. But the Cape Town record that he points to is also itself fiercely contested. The city is widely praised for clean administration and reliable services, while many residents of townships and informal settlements say that efficiency stops at the boundaries of wealthier suburbs. Professor Habib joins us this morning, a Vice-Chancellor of SOAS, University of London. Prof. Habib, good morning. Great to have you on the show. Long time.
It has been a long time, Cathy. How are you doing?
Doing well. So you said only Helen Zille can save Johannesburg. Interesting that you've chosen to frame an institutional crisis around one person. Tell us why.
Well, I think she's one of the few people that has got the historic record of having turned around the city. If anybody who knows Cape Town was in a bad space in the late 1990s, and Helen was a key architect in that. She has been a mayor before. She has turned it around. Every time I come back to Johannesburg, I'm astonished at the decline of the city. Water provisions no longer available, power no longer available, roads are in a mess. This city is dying, and this city needs to be rescued. The deep, deep corruption in the place, the fact that so much of the ANC is factionalized, it's incapable of turning around the city. And the only person that I can see from all of the candidates there is Helen Zille. Now, it is true in your brief description, are there townships that are unequal compared to the southern suburbs in Cape Town? Of course they are. Is there an inequality in Cape Town? Of course there is. But to be honest, if you compare township to township, delivery point to delivery point, they've done much better. And I think it's something, what her age is has got to do immaterial with it. The fact that she's white is quite immaterial. I think she's the best candidate standing. And I really think if South Africa and Johannesburg in particular messes around with the next mayorship, we're going to destroy the city.
So, but Prof, I was going to ask you something else, but your answer has prompted a different question from me. When you talk about township to township, that on measure, right, the city of Cape Town has delivered better, perhaps, than what the city of Johannesburg residents have received. What do you base that on? And I wonder if that is actually a fair representation of what people in Khayelitsha and what people in Diepsloot will have to say about the kind of services they're receiving from either of their municipalities.
Well, look, there is no doubt if there are data that is available. Look at the data and all of the indicators across the board in the Western Cape. Look from employment statistics. Look to service delivery points, spending points. In all of that, effectively, the Western Cape is in a better space. Now, is there a problem in the Western Cape and is there inequality in the Western Cape? I'm admitting that. I'm not saying that there isn't. But just come back to the basics. There are people who are picking up water in what is meant to be the richest city on the African continent. 15 years ago, people in Johannesburg weren't getting water from tanks. The roads were not in the state that they are in. We expect this to be a world-class city. This is no longer a world-class city. And it has been utterly destroyed by effectively political leadership. That's the point. And for once, it seems to me, here's the person. I don't always agree with Helen. I don't agree with the foreign policy. I don't agree. I've battled with her in the public discourse for many years. But of the candidates sitting on the table, she's the best we have. She's got experience. She's completely honest. And frankly, she's got the courage to take on entrenched factions and entrenched stakeholders in the Johannesburg municipality.
All right.
Unless we do that, the city is going to die. And in all of the indicators, Cape Town comes out trumps Johannesburg. And that's not because it started off better. It's because of the quality of political leadership. And we need to take political leadership seriously in Johannesburg if we're going to rescue the city.
Professor Adam Habib, we're going to have to leave it there, Vice-Chancellor of SOAS University of London. Do you agree with Professor Habib? How do you respond to his very strong convictions, as you've heard this morning? It's 7 o'clock, and Musa standing by with your latest update.
Theft, accident, and 1 million rand third-party cover for your older car. Outsurance Essential has it all. Get a quote. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185. Outsurance Essential is made for older cars. Claims are paid in cash within 5 working days, and you choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185.
Thanks, Cathy. In our top stories, Mohlahlana returns to Matlanga Commission for further testimony, and South Sudan's president on official visit to South Africa. Good morning. Alleged criminal kingpin Vusumuzi Mohlahlana is expected to return to the Matlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria this morning. When he appeared before the commission last week, he refused to answer questions relating to the 228 million rand SAPS Medicare 24 tender. Mohlahlana said the matter was still before courts. Sibahle Mota reports.
Mohlahlana is expected to use his supplementary affidavit to address omissions in his initial statement, including the names of several senior police officials. These include suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibia, former Hawks head in KwaZulu-Natal Liseja Sinona, and Richard Chibiri, the former SAPS Major General Component Head for Organized Crime, who has been dismissed. Mohlahlana is also expected to provide information about his alleged ties to members of the criminal underworld.
Western Cape Police say they've arrested 2 men in connection with the killing of the former Knysna mayor, Aubrey Tsengwa. He was shot dead while on his way home last Wednesday night. 3 other people were wounded in the incident. 2 vehicles, 3 firearms and several cell phones have been seized. Police spokesperson Novella Putelwa.
2 suspects aged 39 and 46 are expected to appear in court in Knysna on Monday, following their arrest on charges of conspiracy to commit murder after the shooting of Knysna councillor and former mayor Aubrey Tsengwa on Wednesday evening. The arrests were effected by a team comprising serious violent crime detectives, crime intelligence, combat team, the drone unit, as well as local police. SAPS management reinforced deployment to the area with a view to apprehending those behind the shooting incident.
In the Eastern Cape, police have made 2 more arrests in connection with the killing of the former 2-division boxing world champion, Zolani Tete, putting the total number of people in police custody at 4. The 5th person who had been taken in for questioning has since been released. The arrests were made in Mdantsane and Kukompo City at the weekend. One of the suspects will appear in court today. Tete was shot dead outside his home in Mdantsane on Friday at the age of 38. Police spokesperson Nobuntu Gantana says more arrests are expected.
The 22-year-old, arrested on 22 August, has been formally charged with murder and attempted murder and is scheduled to appear before the Mdantsane Magistrates Court on 24 August. The other 3 suspects are expected to appear in court soon. The attempted murder charge relates to the 27-year-old female passenger who was wounded in the attack and remains hospitalized.
The President of South Sudan, Salva Kiir, is on an official visit to South Africa. He will participate in high-level talks with President Cyril Ramaphosa, who's the chairperson of the African Union Committee on South Sudan. Sophie Mukwena reports.
South Sudan is expected to hold elections later this year. However, there are challenges on the ground, with the main opposition party raising concerns that the revitalized peace agreement is being violated. Earlier this year, the African Union High-Level Ad Hoc Committee that consists of 5 nations met with the government of South Sudan on the margins of the AU Assembly of Heads of State and Government in Addis Ababa.
And finally, the Pakistani Chief of Defence Forces travels to Iran today to try to reopen negotiations between Tehran and the United States. The visit of Field Marshal Asim Munir comes as Washington prepares to unveil more economic sanctions against Iran. These are expected to punish countries which do business with Tehran. The BBC's Sanjay Dasgupta reports.
Field Marshal Munir's visit to Tehran coincides with an expected announcement on Monday of further U.S. sanctions on Iran, which U.S. officials say would be the toughest yet. Tehran remains defiant and continues to threaten strikes on any oil tanker in the Strait of Hormuz that it considers unauthorized. But its economy is under pressure, battered by war, by a U.S. naval blockade, and by high inflation. Its currency, the rial, has hit a record low, trading at over 2 million to the dollar on unofficial markets.
Recapping the top story, alleged criminal kingpin Vusumuzi Cathy Mohlahlana is expected to return to the Matlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria this morning. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
You wouldn't pay Wagyu steak prices for a boerewors roll, so why overpay to insure your older car? Outsurance Essential Car Insurance covers older cars for much less. 43-year-old Qiniso pays only 510 Rand a month for his 2012 Hyundai Sonata and gets third-party cover of up to 1 million Rand. Get Outsurance Essential Car Insurance today for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 150,000 Rand. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SAfm sports headlines, rugby, the Springboks are embracing the underdog tag after the All Black setback. And in soccer, Golden Arrows have stunned Mamelodi Sundowns to seize the MTN8 advantage. All the details at around 7:30.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, Joburg's Mike 1 North heavy today, extending delays through the normal sort of Braamfontein Parktown backlog up to a crash scene, Mike 1 North 11th Avenue, out in the Stay-Kalani area, backlog down at Gold Reef City. N3 on the brakes, low gear stuff coming up from Sprayview towards Heidelberg Road. After that, from Elands through Van Buren on your way to Giluli is very busy, and staying east, roadworks on the N17, Joburg bound at Rondebolt Road and the N12, but only through Rondebolt Road, looking quite slow as well. So delays on both of those highways coming off that Ekurhuleni area. The N1 South, bit sluggish between Montana and the N4 Ekurhuleni split. That's through the construction zone. Further down, Midrand section, Old Joburg to New Road, looking fairly busy for a Monday as well. Durban, absolutely jam-packed on the run through Spaghetti Junction. Northbound, a couple of breakdowns plus the roadwork, so delays from the M7 moving through Westwood Mall. And southbound, a couple of breakdowns between Inanda Road and Spaghetti Junction, so that's heavy as well. M19, Dunkeld Road through the Reservoir Hills. Only one lane open around a sinkhole incident. First morning that you've been driving through reasonably heavy backlogs there. Just a queue coming in through that Dunkeld Road exit. M13 approaching Kloof and the top of Fields Hill, slow as you arrive in from Hillcrest. And Cape Town this morning, Viking Way. Well, it's actually Francie Van Sale becomes Avonwood, becomes Viking at Valhalla. Looks like traffic lights are down there. That's very slow through LC's and Marine Drive. Slightly different queues this morning. Coming out of Tableview backlog all the way down to Racecourse Road at Milnerton. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The National Briefing on SAfm. Clarity, context, and conversation. This is where the day begins with Cathy Mohlahlana on the National Briefing.
It's 10 after 7 o'clock. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the National Briefing, especially if you've just tuned in this hour. I'm Cathy Mohlahlana. We're with you until 9 a.m. So This month we've been talking about SAfm. We're 90 years old. What are we doing this morning? Well, we're bringing another one of our defining voices back behind the microphone. Nikiwe Bikitsha, welcome home. Welcome home. You helped wake this country on AM Live with John Perlman between 2004 and 2007. I hope the morning wake-up wasn't too violent today, Nikiwe.
It was very rude reminder for me, Cathy. Good morning to you and all the listeners, and it's wonderful to be back at the SABC on SAfm.
Somehow that voice just sounds so familiar. I'm ready for you to take over. Ready for you to take over. That's it. My job here for today is done.
And it hasn't started unless I say good morning. I'm Nikiwe Bikitsha.
Man, the nostalgia. Okay, we're ready to have Nikiwe back on, guys. Let's just, somebody make it happen. All right, so Nikiwe is with us literally until 9 o'clock this morning. We're going to be co-hosting the show together, as we've done with some of the other voices that have helped build SAfm. As always, remember, you can get in touch with us. I'll give you those numbers shortly, but what you can expect then coming up this hour, the ANC's promise to fix local government. We'll get into that shortly. And then a military sent into crisis while its own bases are struggling to keep the lights on. And we'll, of course, also unveil a brand new week of the reality check and our contributor for this week. The numbers to use for our studio line, 086 000 2032. That's 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107. Rob has your traffic, Zai has your sport, and Ntauleng standing by with your latest market update.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAfm to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Morning, neighbour. Oh, your new solar panels are looking good.
Thanks. Best investment ever. My electricity bill has dropped.
Nice. But have you registered your solar system with Eskom?
Register? Why? I'm already saving money.
Because when your system makes more electricity than you use, you could earn credits.
Wait, I could be earning something back?
Yes. If your rooftop solar is connected to Eskom's grid, register it. It's safer and you could earn extra credits for your surplus electricity.
Sure. Looks like I've been missing out. If you have a rooftop solar that's connected to Eskom's grid, register your system today. You could earn credits where applicable, enjoy a safer connection, and get even more value from your solar investment. Visit www.eskom.co.za or call 08600 375 66. T's and C's apply. Eskom, redefining for a better future.
In business, responsible leadership is measured by the choices we make beyond the balance sheet. Used oil is hazardous waste, and how it's stored, collected, and managed matters. The Rose Foundation helps industries in discharging their extended producer responsibility obligations by supporting used oil collection and environmental protection. For decision makers, it is ESG Leadership in Action. Partner with the Rose Foundation and help turn used oil responsibility into measurable impact.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAfm. Leading the conversation.
It's just gone 14 minutes past 7. You're listening to the National Briefing with Cathy Mohlahlana. I'm Nikiwe Bikitsha. Our top story this morning, well, as Cathy mentioned a short while ago, the ANC launched its 2026 local government elections manifesto yesterday in Riverside, Deep Slope, Gauteng. It is positioning it as a response to the lessons of the 2021 election and as a plan to strengthen local government. Can the ANC rebuild voter confidence and win back the major metros it has lost or struggled to control? Well, let's get some analysis and unpack that election manifesto that was unveiled yesterday. I'm joined now by policy analyst at the Election Monitoring Network, and that's Ngosi Khulule Nyembezi. Mr. Nyembezi, good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Madam.
So 65 pages with 6 main promises, plans and pledges. Is it persuasive?
It looks like an imperfect way of striking a balance between being a catalogue of wishes and a program to fix and renew local government. Yes, it is promising because it has brought back into the arena and spotlight some issues that we had thought they are extinct. And in a way that is very strategic in terms of how the packing of the promises has been. But the proof will be in the pudding, because this time around the SACP is also fishing in the same pond of voters as an alliance partner.
What are some of those issues that were extinct which have been brought to light now?
Well, the issue of renewal of infrastructure and revitalizing, reworking on the issue of the indigency policies, because the ANC now says they want to ensure that the subsidies, social subsidies for electricity, for water, are going to be centralized and streamlined to ensure that they reach the ultimate end user instead of being used by municipalities for other spending patterns. So we know that there is a baseline for the kilowatts that you must receive as part of a subsidy when you pay for electricity. There's a baseline for the kiloliters that you must receive as a household when you're paying for water. All of those ensure that people live a better life and enjoy the human rights. To the extent that they want to ensure that the indigency policies covers all of that and ensures that each household receives these across the postal codes, across the ward boundaries, I think it will go a long way.
It's certainly ambitious and noble. Ultimately, though, the challenge tends to be around implementation. Is there going to be a change this time around?
There might be a change if the ANC work earnestly on the issue of making its elected representatives and public servants to sign performance contract, to declare their interests, and so that we can see the conflict of interests. Even though that promise came as unbelievable in the sense that we are supposed to see that at national and provincial level, it's supposed to be cascading to local level. But to the extent that they are still talking about it, if we can ensure that indeed to sign those performance contracts and we follow up to ensure that those who are incompetent or corrupt are removed from office, it could work. I'm mentioning that because at local government, we have an opportunity of by-election. So you can remove people who are not performing without having to wait for them to finish the full term. And that could keep the ball rolling.
You mentioned this public performance agreement. It's listed here. I'll just read what it says. Every ANC councillor will sign a public performance agreement and pledge of ethical conduct. Ward committees and service delivery and anti-corruption reporting channels will be operational, and every ANC-led municipality will publish a 100-day delivery scorecard. Now, how successful has the ANC been in the past in ensuring that those pledges, if you will, of ethical conduct are in fact internalized by their members? There doesn't appear to me, Mr. Nyembezi, to have been a very good track record, and for something for them to be reviving at the stage when service delivery has declined across so many municipalities.
they have been very unsuccessful. Firstly, we have seen since the 2021 municipal elections that it takes time to form the councils, especially because now we increasingly get a number of hung municipalities. So the 100-day deadline is very aspirational. Perhaps in terms of municipalities where the parties get outright majority, but where in municipalities where they still have to negotiate the formation of the council, it might take much longer. And number two, to the extent that even in coalition municipalities, the parties do not get a handshake agreement. They don't agree on the basis of principles as to what are we going to deliver. They agree more on terms of who's going to get what position and what access to the public purse. So if this commitment can change that attitude, it would work. We have seen that internally municipalities do not have the capacity to hold these officials and elected representatives accountable, in as much as people may declare their interests in terms of doing business with municipalities, but that office that receives those declarations does not process them in a way that brings them to the public, in the way that ensures that there is transparency and efficient delivery of services.
I also noticed and saw over the weekend that the ANC said it was going to announce or name its mayoral candidates, and then was changed at the 11th hour. What are we read into that? How do you understand this?
The party is ill-prepared because one would have expected perhaps a staggered approach in the announcements of mayors, because we know that essentially there's elections about each municipality, and each municipality has got its own profile. So for the municipalities that were ready with the names, we expected that announcement to come forth undelayed. And for municipalities that were still working out the final details, we expected the announcement to come later. But to treat all of these municipalities as one homogeneous group is an imperfection. And it also reflects a bigger problem in that we now know that even though these are municipal elections and individual municipal councils, the deals that are made at national and provincial level tend to negatively affect municipalities that are supposed to be relatively stable. So if something wrong happens in Gqeberha or Johannesburg, it will affect Tshwane and other municipalities. So I think being straight-jacketed and confined in terms of that approach that everything must be driven centrally from national is something that could see the ANC retarded in terms of its ability. And I think this manifesto will appeal most to ANC strongholds and card-carrying members than attracting new members, because the promises and the approach to promises seems to be tired and filled with disappointment because of lack of delivery in the previous years.
Nkosi Khulile Nyembezi, we appreciate your insight and analysis this morning. He's policy analyst at the Election Monitoring Network. I'm told by the producers we had hoped to secure the ANC to unpack its own election manifesto. Unfortunately, they've not to date been able to make themselves available this morning. So we will keep trying to get them on the line for you this morning. It's 23 minutes past 7.
Pedestrians crossing the road in winter can be deadly, especially on highways. These are no walking zones for a reason. Always use pedestrian bridges and designated crossings, even if it takes a little longer. No shortcut is worth your life. Stay smart, stay patient, and always cross where it's safe. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
Do you have a car you like to sell, but don't trust your uncle or your pal? Then we buy cars, it's just for you. Buying cars is what we do. We offer service with a smile. We always go the extra mile. Use a place that you trust and sell your car to us.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
You are listening to the National Briefing with Cathy Mohlahlana.
24 after 7 o'clock. Let's continue the hour here. Then the past few weeks, media reports surfacing about how the SANDF is facing budget problems. Power outages have rocked some of the military bases and soldiers having to make fire outside for cooking. Last week, Musi Maimane, who's the chairperson of Parliament's Standing Committee on Appropriations, also raising concerns of the SANDF being stretched beyond its capacity. He joins me now. Musi, good morning to you. Thanks for your time this morning. Firstly, let's start with the issue around Operation Prosper and that 823 million rand that was committed to reach the Defence Force. Has it now reached the Defence Force, and what exactly does it cover?
Good morning, and good morning to fellow South Africans. First and foremost, Operation Prosper was announced by the President in February of the State of the Nation address. The funds were only transferred last week, effectively meaning that the Army has to fund Operation Prosper out of its own operational budget. That's what's been happening since February. Now, if you do that in a budget that is limited within military expenditure, a number of things occur. You can't maintain your own vehicles. You can't maintain infrastructure. You can't do the other programs that the budget is allocated for. So the net effect of all of this has meant that in the underfunding of the Army over the last year, some of these issues have occurred. But more crucially is that the Army's military deployments have not decreased. So we had one that was happening in the DRC. We are over the medium-term expenditure framework over the next 3 years, underfunding the Army. And so as a result of that, you effectively got compromised borders, a compromised army, and the sovereignty of the country being under threat.
You're bringing me straight to my next point, Musi. We're seeing a credibility issue here for the army, not only outside of South Africa's borders, but also internally. If we look at what is happening on the Western Cape, it certainly left a lot of questions about what the true capability of our defense force is. What does this mean? Because surely there has to be a big red flag around national security and our ability to secure ourselves in all of these failures.
Absolutely. And one of the more difficult issues that when you look at the geopolitical situation, it is now common cause that countries need to adopt new technology in fighting threats, whether those threats are of terror or geopolitical instability. That the Army's job needs to be one that is modernized, led by people who are ethical, because we can't dismiss the fact that there have been some serious issues of corruption. We must be able to ensure that the Army renews its personnel. In other words, let's get younger people into the Army, because part of the problem with the Army we have at the moment is that it is old with old equipment and really dysfunctional. So in terms of its entire credibility, I think the Army has suffered a serious blow and compromises us as a country. So we really need to think about the next 4 years and say, how do we recoup funding, increase the funding, implement the program of taking out old Army personnel, replacing them with new, modernizing equipment so that we can protect our borders, or otherwise the issues that you are raising are going to not only increase, they're going to get worse. The last point I want to make is I disagreed fundamentally, even at the time, with the idea of the deployment of the Army within civilians. The Army is not meant to do security in terms of police work. That 819, that operation in many ways could only at best give police an opportunity to fight. But at its ultimate core, the Army is trained to kill. What we need to do is make sure that that money must have been allocated to the increase of policing. We add more detectives, increase the ability of the police to fight crime so that we deal with crime and free up the Army to do what its constitutional mandate is.
All right. Musi, very briefly, and give me specifics here. What then is your committee going to be demanding? Top 3.
We are asking the Minister of Finance. One, we've already got the first bit, which was to pay back the money that was owed to the Army. Two, now what we are asking is over the medium term, let's ensure that 4 billion rands underfunding is put back into the army. And thirdly, we're meeting with the Defense Committee to make sure that the army's leadership is resuscitated so that there's no corruption.
Musi Maimane, the chairperson of Parliament's Standing Committee on Appropriations. So quite a bit then for you to have your pick at. The numbers to use this morning, 086 000 2032. That's the studio line, 086 000 2032. And on the WhatsApp voice note line, send through those messages and voice notes on 0614 104 107. We're continuing our Voices of SAfm this morning. Nikiwe Bikitsha with me in studio. Well, sort of, right? I'm in Johannesburg. She is in Cape Town, but we are able to see each other on screen, and that's what you'll see when you tune in to the live stream. More from her as well. For now, it's 7:30, and Musa has your latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks, Cathy. In the headlines, the 5 suspects arrested for manufacturing drugs valued at more than 600 million rand at a farm in Musina will appear in the local magistrates' court today. 2 suspects are expected to appear in the Knysna Magistrates Court in the Western Cape in connection with the killing of the former Knysna mayor Aubrey Tsengwa. He was shot dead while on his way home last Wednesday night. And alleged criminal kingpin Cathy Mohlahlana is expected to return to the Matlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria this morning. When he appeared before the commission last week, he refused to answer questions relating to the 228 million rand SAPS Medicare 24 tender. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, Joburg's Mike 1 North staying heavy today from Boyson's right through to about 11th Avenue. A crash at 11th Avenue causing that delay. It is heavy if you're on your way to Stanton. N12 coming out of Davyton side. A crash first up by Putfontein, so that's heavy. And then from Benoni, sort of Snake Road, once you get past the crash, it's all the way through to Rondebolt Road. So a lot of traffic on the N12 corridor. N17 west queuing down to Rondebolt Road. Just a single lane open for roadworks. And the N1 coming out of Soweto looking quite busy today as well. The N1 south through Midrand, fairly standard. Old Joburg to New Road is the backlog. Sefaka Makato from Montana across the highway down to Molotto. That's heavy. There might be some traffic light issues around Molotto. It's all very heavily backed up on that run through. The Dustport Tunnel onto Transaranya down to Vom Hagen without traffic lights, very busy as well. First weekday AM peak that you've driven on the M19 through some traffic restrictions between Dunkeld Road and Reservoir Hills. That's causing some really big delays, not only on the M19 but local routes through that area as motorists try to avoid the M19. There is a sinkhole that's opened up just after Dunkeld Road, and that's why it's so heavy. The N3 from Paradise Valley to Spaghetti Junction stays busy this morning, Durban bound. N2 really heavy, Cement Factory past a couple of breakdowns up towards the Westwood Mall construction zone. And if you're driving Cape Town today, the M5 Prince George Drive coming in from Muizenberg, heavy backlogs into Dick Burton. That's a big delay through Southfield up towards Plumstead. M3 is heavy, Constantia through Bishop's Court, and the N7 Goodwood through Bosmansdam all jammed up as well. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
7:33, Zai Khan, a very good morning to you. So we have Rassie Erasmus talking about the Springboks embracing their underdog status. Springboks underdog status, rather dramatic, right?
Too soon. After only one loss. You know, they don't call it the greatest rivalry in sporting history for nothing. These are two massive, tightened nations in rugby. So there are bound to be moments when the Springboks don't do as well as we would have hoped. But just to watch the tremendous, enormous respect that exists between these two teams, Cathy, is a thing to behold. So I'm looking forward to the game in Cape Town this coming Saturday, where hopefully we'll be able to improve.
And certainly they are not underdogs by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, Cathy, if anybody enjoys a comeback story, it is the Boks. So yeah, from being the hunted to the hunters. Let's hope it's a role that the Springboks will come back and be happy to let New Zealand know who the boss really is in town. So Cape Town, here we come. So looking forward to seeing round 2 with Coach Rassie Erasmus saying, please don't panic. Yes, we lost to the All Blacks 33-16. The loss ending South Africa's 12-match winning streak, handing New Zealand the early advantage. Erasmus admitting the Boks were punished for too many costly errors and believes they can still win the remaining 3 tests. Let's go now to soccer. Golden Arrows have taken a giant step towards the MTN 8 final after shocking Mamelodi Sundowns 1-0. First leg happened at Lucas Moripa Stadium. Junior Dion's first half strike proving the difference as Abafana Bastenda stretched their unbeaten start to the season, leaving the Brazilians with all to do in next weekend's return leg. Now, Premier League, Manchester City came from behind to beat Bournemouth 2-1 in Enzo Maresca's first league game in charge. And we also had at St. James Park, Dominic Soboslai converting a 99th minute penalty, Liverpool rescuing a 2-2 draw against Newcastle. Elsewhere, Brighton made a flying start, thrashing Aston Villa 4-0. And in tennis action, Coco Gauff is Cincinnati champion for the second time. She saw fellow American Jessica Pegula in straight sets 6-2, 6-4. And in the men's final, Arthur Fields, he captured the biggest title of his career, his first ATP Masters 1000 crown. Fields beat the American Francis Tiafoe 6-3, 1-6, 6-love. And finally, motorsport, Lando Norris claimed back-to-back Formula One victories after McLaren's strategy earned them the Dutch Grand Prix. Max Verstappen crashed out in the opening lap, while Norris fought back to beat Mercedes' Kimi Antonelli after a perfectly executed tyre strategy. George Russell completed the podium after team orders saw him allow Antonelli through before reclaiming third in the closing laps. Lewis Hamilton finished fourth, but here's the race winner, Lando Norris.
It was a tough race. It was a tough race just because of some decisions you have to make along the way and the stress that things cause. Not having a great start for whatever reason. So we need to review, of course, some things. To be honest, a lot of yesterday and today as well, the right side of the grid seemed to be better starters than the left for some reason. And this is what we learned from yesterday and it was clear again today. So we need to understand why.
And that's your wrap of the National Briefing Sport. We'll be back in the fast lane, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Market Brief with Ndauleng Lechela on SAfm.
Ndauleng, good morning again. We're seeing SA auto suppliers, they're feeling the squeeze as local vehicle production falters.
That's right, Cathy. So local auto parts industry is under growing pressure as weaker vehicle production hits suppliers, with more than 1,000 businesses closing and 7,500 jobs lost over the past 3 years, according to News 24. NACAM says 63% of its 150 manufacturing members have already cut jobs or are considering doing so. Domestic component sales slipped to 28.8 billion rand in the first quarter, while exports reached 15 billion rands despite 5.8 billion rand in capital investment last year. Now, suppliers are being squeezed by weaker than expected OEM volumes, tariff uncertainty, and cheaper imports from China and India. NACAM says more job losses could follow without stronger localization and production. Then moving over to some company news, UAE-based ADNOC Distribution has selected investment holding group Riatile as its Black Economic Empowerment partner as it proceeds with its proposed acquisition of Shell's South African downstream business. The partnership is aimed at supporting local participation and aligning the transaction with South Africa's economic priorities. Now, the parties have not disclosed Riatile's equity stake. The business operates, of course, that Shell downstream business operates about 600 forecourts nationally. And for Riatile, chaired by Simpiwe Mehlomakulu, the deal expands its energy portfolio. ADNOC expects the transaction to close next year, saying South Africa's fuel retail market remains attractive. Now, taking a look at equity markets, it's a cautious start to the week, with investors reluctant to take big positions ahead of two major events, Nvidia's earnings on Wednesday and the Jackson Hole meeting later this week, where markets will be looking for clues on US interest rates. Wall Street futures are broadly flat, suggesting a subdued open, while Asian markets are trading cautiously as investors weigh oil prices, US-Iran tensions, and rising bond yields. Now that points to a relatively muted start for the JSE at 9 a.m., with local sentiment likely to take its cue from the broader risk-off tone. Lastly, in currency markets, the rand slightly firmer at around 16 to the dollar, 21.83 to the pound, and 18.69 to the euro. And that's your market update. I'll be back bright and early tomorrow morning with your news shaping market activity.
Get into real conversations weekdays at 4:30 on SABC2 with me, Penny Libiani, with Aintlek Let's Connect.
I'm Fenrico Lucas, bringing you some of the most inspiring guests and practical advice.
Every evening, we bring family advice and all your favorite celebrities.
It's a big celebration of local talent from across industries.
Catch Aintlek Let's Connect weekdays at 4:30 on SABC2 or stream anytime on SABC+.
Deciding to skip the gym may cost you that smoothie reward, but deciding to stay with your current car insurance could be costing you thousands of rands in savings a year. With Outsurance, 48-year-old Sylvia saves an incredible 802 Rand a month on her 2019 BMW X1. Switch to Outsurance today. You could be one quote away from having more money in your pocket every month. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Reality check on the National Briefing.
It's 7:41. You're still tuned into the National Briefing. We're starting a brand new week. So, of course, today then we've got a new contributor for our reality check segment. And just a reminder, at its core, the segment really exists to help us pause, reflect, and to think seriously about the state of South Africa, not just what is happening, but why it's happening, what it's costing us, and what we can do to change it. It's really to deepen the national conversation and to help sharpen our thinking around the practical steps that are needed to build the South Africa that we want to see. And this morning, it is a pleasure to welcome onto the reality check emeritus professor at UCT. He is an award-winning sociologist, writer, and civic activist. Professor Ari Sitas is our guest for the week on the reality check. Professor Sitas, good morning to you. Thank you, by the way, so much for agreeing to spend the week with us. It's an absolute honor having you on.
Thank you, Cathy, and thank you to the listeners out there rushing to work and those who are staying at home. Well, we'll do our best, I think.
Absolutely. And you wanted to start us off with the role of community spaces in society. And you want to begin by foregrounding the history of our community spaces. Prof?
Yeah, no, thank you. As you know, these days I'm chairing the National Research Foundation, and most of my time is worrying about our science and knowledge system, the big telescopes that point to the sky, the oceanic stuff and the deep mechanisms that track the ocean's life, hundreds of PhDs and masters running around looking at what is going on here, there, everywhere. And I have to thank people I interacted with over the last 50 years, because I have taught thousands, taught the best and the worst. But wherever I might be, I worry about, as you said, the community and workplaces that elevated me into a meaningful and creative career. So my focus has to remain around our failures and successes in making everyone's life meaningful and rewarding. And it has to start, and we have to start again from community spaces. But Cathy, as we know, where did community spaces come from? We all know that communities are never just buildings, clusters of buildings. They carry a history and a history of society around them. So community space is anywhere people can reach within 30 minutes of walking. I make a distinction between that and community spaces created where people have to go to shop, to get social benefits, to fix parts of their bodies. Both are important. But the first demands decent footwear, the other, as we know, taxi fare. So I would spend the next few minutes giving our listeners a short background from the 50s to today. And if we go, those who remember the 50s and the 70s, and the very few of us left, this is important because apartheid did not merely segregate people residentially. It also organized and controlled where people could meet, learn, play, worship, and eventually organize. People remind me of the community halls, the schools, the churches, sports clubs, libraries, civic spaces, but also spaces with nothing. And they all became important sites of social life. And as people remind me sometimes of resistance too. So I would dare to say that the struggle for democracy was not only about the vote, but also a struggle over space. So people needed places where they could meet. And it is true that people did remarkable things in these Isikala places, from the single-sex hostel to the church hall. Remember, Doornfontein and the location gave us Marabi. The hostel was what made Ladysmith Black Mambazo later, and the hundreds of Mbube choirs that animate our radio stations and ears still. The single-bed back room gave us Maskanda guitarists. The narrow township streets gave us Shushan and piano that we are enjoying in the fields. We can marvel at that, surely. But it's our duty to imagine more than that. The creation of human post-apartheid spaces. And yet, my friends also say, oh, okay, no, let's go ahead, 70s, 1990s, weren't those all spaces of mobilization as well? And they sit back and they remember youth networks, sporting associations, churches, workers' education programs, civic organizations, cultural groups. Hey, don't forget women's organizations. And there were political meetings, there were community arts, and there were even some self-created libraries and reading circles. So I would say that these places became, let's call them rehearsal spaces, where people learned to become future citizens during those days of resistance. So I would say democracy was produced also in the everyday places where people learned to speak, listen, organize, disagree, fight, but also cooperate. There we are. If we push the video faster forward, 1994 onwards, so the great question becomes, well, what happens to these spaces once political democracy has been achieved? What happened to the multi-purpose centers we motivated for? Of course, we know some became integrated into municipal and provincial systems. Others were neglected. Others were privatized, commercialized, or simply deteriorated. Some were looted. And meanwhile, our lives became more complex. We study unemployment, migration, inequality, changing family structures, youth restlessness, digitalization. There is an outcry that the traditional forms of community are weakening. So if democracy was built partly in community spaces, we need to explore what happens to this feeling, this democracy we talk about, if those spaces disappear. For the listeners here, Cathy, who want to read further, in our heroic 1990s, I wrote a fiction piece, A Day in the Life of a Worker in the Year 2000, published by Madiba Press, which looked at what could be possible in a new Inanda Kwamashu Ntuzuma space, and it painted a rosy picture about the future. Now that should be read against my friend Nomkosi Kulu's recent hostel study, Spaces of Perplexity, a book after she had spent 3 years in the reality of the Kwamashu hostel. And I admit, Cathy, that the distance between dream and reality is vast. And I hope we start a conversation that starts bringing the dream and the reality closer together. I think I've said enough as a backdrop, which allows us now to look at these spaces, these Indawo places, and try and understand what dynamics need to be encouraged, what dynamics need to be stopped.
Professor Ari, thank you so much for that, especially the link that you have drawn, right, between the building of democracy in these spaces and what it means then for our democracy, the fact that they've not changed, they've not evolved. Is this as a result of lack of imagination, creativity around how else these spaces can look? Because the reality is, if you are staying and have been staying in a hostel for the last 30 years, that is all you know. And our communities in many ways have come to accept that this is what these spaces are, because there's no alternative that's being brought forward.
Yeah, I don't want to blame people's imagination too much, because there's necessities, there's survival pressures, there's, you need imal, you need to feed yourself, you need to move around, so your life has remained constrained, and inequality, unemployment, and other issues are happening. And even still there, people are using their imagination here and there to create meaningful lives, choirs, activities, church groups. So I think what I would like to say is that we have to critically look at where did we fail in post-1994, what was possible, and what can be done now. I will try and just deepen the conversation a little bit further, because now we just painted a broad picture.
All right.
And everybody has something to say about their experience in the 30 minutes of walk in their shoes and what is going on there.
Professor Ari Setas, Emeritus Professor at the University of Cape Town and Chairperson of the National Research Foundation. So we'll start it off there then. 30 minutes walking in your neighborhood. What do you see? What will you find? And what does that say about the spaces that are around you? Let's have part of that conversation then this morning.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Joburg's Mike 1 stays heavy from the Boysons area all the way through to a crash scene by 11th Avenue. If you're on your way to Stanton, it is a badly backed up Mike 1 today. N1 Bayers Nordia around to Ravonia looking pretty heavy. The R21 towards the airport. Looks like something's happened around Atlas Road. That's a queue back through Pomona and back towards the R23 exit if you're arriving from Tembisa Clayville. R21 all of a sudden heavy. The N12 from Benoni through Boksburg this morning under quite a bit of pressure as well. Lots of traffic around Pretoria. Breakdown on the M1 South before the N4 Eminent split. So there's some delays coming through from Montana. The Sefaka Makato Molotto Road junction under severe pressure, and Sport Tunnel onto Transaranya down in towards Vom Hagen. No traffic lights there. That's heavy on the southbound track. Durban, the new roadworks went in, I think, late last week on the M19 between Dunkeld Road and Reservoir Hills, causing a really big delay, not only on the M19 leaving Claremont, New Germany, but also forcing traffic onto some alternative routes jamming up as well. The new restrictions around Spaghetti Junction, N3 inbound, we promise to keep an eye on that. That is heavy. Got a backlog coming through from Paradise Valley. M7 into Pinetown, up over St John's Avenue Bridge is heavy, and the M2, multiple breakdowns this morning, plus the roadworks are queues from Cement Factory through Westwood Mall. Southbound, a couple of breakdowns in under to Spaghetti Junction, and the M4 Southern Freeway jamming from Clarewood through to Umbilo area today. Cape Town, busy on the run into Stellenbosch, Adam Tuss, and the R44 are the bad affected routes there. N7 Goodwood through Bosmansdam looking heavy, and the M5 still queuing as you arrive from Retreat and Grassy Park. Backlogs up to Dick Burton Road in the Plumstead area. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This September, S3 brings you thought-provoking nature dockies that will change the way in which you view the world. Temperature Rising tells the story of three activists as they grapple with what thinking globally and acting locally means as they fight the barriers to climate action. Airs Sunday the 8th of September. Channel your inner activist with our selection of premium dockies Sundays at 5 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Deciding to ignore your alarm may cost you your flight, but deciding to stay with your current car insurance could be costing you thousands of rands in savings a year. With Archurance, 43-year-old Ilana saves an unbelievable 349 Rand a month on her 2022 Suzuki Jimny. Switch to Archurance today. You could be one quote away from having more money in your pocket every month. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
The National Briefing on SAfm with Cathy Mohlahlana.
All right, let's take a look at this story now. It's 7:55. Johannesburg has paid Eskom 5.25 billion rand in overdue electricity debt in full. The immediate threat, of course, to supply has now receded, and Eskom has withdrawn its legal process. The question is, where did the city find the money? Councillor Dada Morero is the executive mayor of Johannesburg, joins us on the line. Mayor, good morning to you. Thanks for your time. So, where did this money come from?
Good morning to you, Cathy, and happy anniversary. Let me just indicate that in the beginning we did enter into a payment arrangement and a payment schedule with Eskom as part of the discussion we had with the minister. So we're then able to pay it, and the last payment batch was done on Thursday, which is around 230 to 260 million, which then settles the entire amount. So we've been paying it over a period of time, and that's where we are, which then guarantees that our customers, there will be no any form of disruptions on electricity supply.
Where did the money come from?
Of course, it comes from the revenue collection of the city. City power collection had also increased. Our overall in collection in the last 3 months has been at 90%. And part of the money, of course, came from our equitable share, the portion that we received in July, which had helped us a lot to move towards settling of the debt with Eskom.
There's been a big issue raised about this equitable share, Mayor, and I think the city of Johannesburg has been at the heart of it with the National Treasury. That money is supposed to be, really going towards specific services, particularly around supporting indigent households and others. We're sitting with a financial crisis in the city of Johannesburg. How have you allowed this to happen? And the reality is, even though you've managed to find the money for now, many residents would be asking themselves, what is it then that is not going to be paid? Services like Pick It Up and other, where refuse removal has also come under strain simply because they've not been paid.
Well, equitable share is used to also cover indigent customers or indigent residents through electricity and water. You know that they receive water and toilets throughout the informal settlements and portion of electricity. So we are in the right track in terms of the usage of the equitable share. In as far as waste collection is concerned, there was an issue between the city and what we call casuals, who would have been promised by some people that they will be employed on a permanent basis. And as a result of that, they withdrew their labor for a period of time, but we have since been able to address that matter, and the backlog has also been addressed. We are now moving with our normal schedules to
But
collect
Mayor, the
waste.
issue, sorry to come in, the issue with Pick It Up was that they were not paid monies from the city of Joburg.
Yeah, but I was still explaining and you came in.
Okay,
So part
go
of
ahead.
it was the casuals. The second part was a cash flow issue which affected our contractors, who were therefore not being paid on time. Remember, these casual workers are casual workers employed by contractors. So that was the main issue. But with casuals, it was about them being employed on a permanent basis. With contractors, there was an issue of a cash flow shortage, which I think we've since improved from the issue of supply of collection of waste.
Have you
And I
paid?
must
Have
also-
you paid Pick It Up the money that you owed them?
We have, it's not money owed to Pick It Up, it's basically their allocation, which I think the city has been able to do. Let me indicate once more that in the last 3 months we have been able to increase our collection rate, meaning that our financial position is beginning to look better. There are a few things that we still need to ensure that we improve even further than where we are. And on the 1st of September, we'll now be moving towards a ring-fencing of the Pick It Up revenue so that Pick It Up can be able to manage a part of its revenue.
Last month, you spoke about the city being on 12 days reserves.
14 days coverage.
Your deputy mayor confirmed 12 days, Mayor. She was on 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but I'm telling you now, it was 14 days cash
Has
coverage.
has that position changed at all?
Let me explain this matter because I think journalists are missing a point. An indication is that National Treasury requires us at least on a month-to-month to be at 30 days to 45 days in terms of cash available. Should anything happen, we should have the ability to pay. So it will naturally fluctuate depending on your month-to-month collection. Now we're at 90 days collection, which would have given us at least an improvement to just around 16 days, but we want to get to 30 days month to month. And what affects that in the main is payment to creditors. So we are still working towards ensuring that we are able to clear the backlog on payment of creditors so that our month to month cash coverage can improve. But it does fluctuate.
But whichever way you look at it, Mayor, it's below where it should be.
No. It will always fluctuate in municipalities. It's a normal issue of cash management, expenditure management, where you'll from time to time find yourself that you're unable to get to 30 days, but an ideal situation is 45 days. And that's what we're working towards so that we ensure that at least moving forward, we can be at 30 days month to month.
All right. We're going to have to leave it there. We're completely out of time. That is the Johannesburg Mayor, Dada Morero. It's just after 8 o'clock. Apologies and good morning.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Thanks, Cathy. In our top stories, suspects to appear in court over 600 million rand drug bust, and Mohlahlana returns to Matlanga Commission for further testimony. Good morning. The 5 suspects arrested for manufacturing drugs valued at more than 600 million rand at a farm in Musina will appear in the local magistrates' court in Limpopo today. The suspects who were arrested last Friday are all foreign nationals. Patsiba Mabua reports.
5 suspects who are 2 Mexican nationals, 2 Zimbabwean nationals and a Malawian citizen were caught in the act of manufacturing the drugs. Police are searching for more suspects following the discovery of a drug manufacturing lab. The drugs with an estimated value of more than 600 million rand were confiscated.
2 suspects are expected to appear in the Knysna Magistrates Court in the Western Cape today in connection with the killing of the former Knysna mayor, Aubrey Tsengwa. He was shot dead while on his way home last Wednesday. 3 other people were wounded in the incident. Police spokesperson Novella Potelwa says the suspects were arrested at the weekend. 2 vehicles, 3 firearms and several cell phones have been seized. Alleged criminal kingpin Vusimuzi Matlala is expected to return to the Matlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria this morning. When he appeared before the commission last week, he refused to answer questions relating to the 228 million rand SAPS Medicare 24 tender. Matlala said the matter was still before courts. Sibahle Mota reports.
Matlala is expected to use his supplementary affidavit to address omissions in his initial statement, including the names of several senior police officials. These include suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibia, former Hawks head in KwaZulu-Natal Liseja Sinona, and Richard Chibiri, the former SAPS Major General Component Head for Organized Crime, who has been dismissed. Matlala is also expected to provide information about his alleged ties to members of the criminal underworld.
The army in Sudan is reported to have targeted 2 paramilitary convoys at the weekend. Militia allied to the armed forces say they hit a rapid support forces convoy close to the border with Libya yesterday. Meanwhile, Chad has accused the Sudanese military of launching drone strikes against a convoy inside its territory. The BBC's Julian Bedford reports.
Despite international sanctions, Sudan has been flooded with weapons throughout the 3 years of fighting between the army and the RSF. Last month, the military decided to try to cut off the flow of weapons to their paramilitary rivals. They sent reinforcements to remote desert regions to tighten control over transit corridors. These tactics may have scored some successes, but are unlikely to fully stop arms and mercenaries from joining the fray.
And finally, the conflict in Iran will be high on the agenda of talks between the French president and the Saudi crown prince in Paris today. Emmanuel Macron and Mohammed bin Salman will also chair the first meeting of a new Saudi-French Strategic Partnership Council. Agreements on health, transport and energy are expected to be signed. Recapping the top story, the 5 suspects arrested for manufacturing drugs valued at more than 600 million rand at a farm in Musina will appear in the local magistrates' court in Limpopo today. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Deciding to skip the gym may cost you that smoothie reward, but deciding to stay with your current car insurance could be costing you thousands of rands in savings a year. With Outsurance, 48-year-old Sylvia saves an incredible 802 rand a month on her 2019 BMW X1. Switch to Outsurance today, where you could be one quote away from having more money in your pocket every month. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SAfm sports headlines. Some good news. South Africa's hockey women celebrate their first World Cup victory. And we also bring you some Liverpool news. They snatch a dramatic draw at Newcastle as Manchester City launched the Premier League season with a comeback win. All the details around 8:30.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's a busy Monday in Pretoria, particularly for Eskia Mpathlele drivers coming through from Van der Hof all the way down into Marabastad. Paul Kruger through Capital Park into City Centre, quite busy. And your third option, which is Steve Pico, Johan Haynes, Gazina, backlogging as well today. Joe Berg, R21, that delay is a crash by Four-Tracker. Heavy backlog coming through from around about the Benoni exit. The crash scene is cleared. That backlog will work through, but it is heavy. Collision on the Mike 1 11th Avenue from earlier this this morning. Still very heavy from Boysons or Monday as you make your way slowly up through Houghton Estate on your way to Sandton. Durban having a jam-packed back to work Monday. N3 inbound roadworks at Spaghetti Junction. Heavy coming through from Paradise Valley. Plenty of breakdowns on the N2 between Cement Factory and the roadworks up by Westwood Mall. N2 North is heavy this morning. N2 South, multiple breakdowns as well after Umgena Road. So from Inanda Road, that's all badly backed up. Also the M19, the roadworks at Dunkeld Road to Reservoir Hills, causing a delay not only on the M19, but forcing traffic onto some alternate local routes. And they're seeing quite some big volumes as well today. Cape Town Marine Drive, Table View through Milnerton stays busy. N1 inbound Belleville all the way through to City Centre. M3 Constantia through Hospital Bend is slow. And there's just been a crash on the Stellenbosch Arterial Road at the R102 Van Riebeek. That's a heavy backlog trying to get into Kales River through that Noinsfontein and that Blackheath area. Stellenbosch Arterial direction R102 very slow. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The National Briefing on SAfm. Clarity, context, and conversation. This is where the day begins with Cathy Mohlahlana on the National Briefing.
It's 10 after 8 o'clock. You're tuned into the National Briefing. A very good morning to you. We may be getting into the final hour of the show. I'm Cathy Mohlahlana, but it's certainly not the most boring hour. It is the exciting hour, especially for this Monday morning. Nikiwe Bikitsha is in the building in our Cape Town studio. She sat in this very chair on AM Live interviewing the likes of Kofi Annan, Thabo Mbeki, Mo Ibrahim, and this hour we're going to be turning the spotlight on her. It's part of our SAfm Turns 90 anniversary celebrations. She's one of the voices that we're bringing back as always. We'd love to hear from you. 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial, 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107. And of course, we'll end things off towards the top of the hour with Built in Mzansi.
Moving to a bigger office space can be expensive. Thanks to My Way Business Insurance, I get to save up to 20% on my insurance premiums every month. Plus, I get My Business Assist, which helps me with marketing, legal, and admin services. Saving money while growing my business is a great win for me.
Switch to My Way Business Insurance and save up to 20% on your monthly premiums. Real businesses, real savings. Call us on 0860 646464 today for a quote. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. Standard rates and T's and C's apply.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAfm, let's talk.
It's 12 after 8 o'clock, so we're continuing our journey bringing on the voices of SAfm. And, you know, she started off as a junior reporter in Cape Town in 1997 and then went on to work for the BBC, CNN. Since then, she's hosted on Talk Radio 702, ETV's Morning Edition, Interface on SABC3, CNBC Africa, and then senior anchor at ENCA. Today, she runs her own business and, as always, continues to do amazing things. You've already heard her voice, but Nikiwe, I don't need to tell you how excited I was that you were doing this broadcast.
So was I, Cathy, and I was so elated when I received this invitation over a month ago. And I thought, what a privilege and what an amazing opportunity I had as a young 26-year-old to co-host one of the country's most influential agenda-setting news and current affairs shows in 2004. I was shocked, Cathy, when I thought, goodness, it's been 22 years since I started at SAfm on AM Live. I mean, my goodness, where does the time go? So it is an immense privilege and an honor for me to be back here to celebrate what I think is a fantastic institution in South African news and current affairs, and one which over many generations has produced such credible, thought-provoking, thoughtful, good quality journalism with no sensationalism, seeking fact base and clarity, and as your tagline now says, context and clarity, which I think is very vital in any society. So I'm pleased to be back, if only for the day, to help you celebrate it. And of course, to be with you, Cathy, someone whom I've worked with very, very closely at ENCA.
What Nikiwe won't tell you is the fact that I basically used to stalk her in the ENCA building. You know, I just want to find myself where she was. That's what she won't tell you. So, Nikiwe,
I think it's worked out well.
Thank you, Nikiwe. You know, I want to perhaps begin with reflections of South Africa in 2004 when you were on this platform. The country has evolved quite significantly since then. But when you look at where the mood of the country was, the climate, and what the power of this platform was, speak us through it, because I do think that there are things of past that we need to be intentionally still holding on to and trying to bring into our present SAfm.
Sure. So if I look back to when I started in 2004 and what state our country was in, so that would have been 10 years post-democracy. So there was still a great deal of jubilation and enthusiasm and a sense of investment in the country's success. I recall when I started that August, the then President Thabo Mbeki had just been re-elected for a second term, I think. So I had been following him on the campaign trail and just reflecting on the conversation we had earlier about the ANC launching its election manifesto just yesterday. And the seemingly lack of enthusiasm about its own track record. It was a completely different picture in 2004. The ANC could do no wrong. Extraordinary election victory in 2004, perhaps one of the highest at the time, I think. And former President Thabo Mbeki going on a door-to-door campaign with ease, being welcomed and received like a rock star. Now, we've seen of late where, for example, there has to be a great deal of security around our leaders these days because they are challenged by communities who are aggrieved. So that's a massive fundamental difference, that the ANC enjoyed this overwhelming support, and we've seen that electoral support decline quite substantially over the past 22 years. And also on the news cycle and agenda at that time, what then happened in 2005, which set into motion, I suppose, the cataclysmic political events that led to the recall of the former Deputy President Jacob Zuma, the Shabir Sheikh corruption trial linked to allegations of corruption, to the arms deal. All of that was starting to unfold and play out in South Africa. So the hegemony of the ANC was being challenged in that way, but also this groundswell and concern about a rot which was beginning to take hold when it comes to corruption. And that's the country we had then. I think those were some of the main themes that on SAfm we were grappling with and debating through, for example, the After 8 debate, and through news and current affairs interviews, which I know that the production team were very considered in setting up. The SABC itself was a role player. I mean, the SABC remains and will always be a contested space. Its own role in those political machinations and shenanigans, and trying to ensure its independence and the right of journalists then to practice their craft in asking the difficult questions also came under the spotlight and was challenged in those days.
And how would you say that, you were able to navigate that period? Because ultimately it's almost like there's this fine line that is written, and you have these interests politically that one way or the other want to find themselves manifested in what is happening on air. So tell us about some of the off-air conversations, debates that you'd have to have just so that you could keep doing what you were doing with honesty and credibility. I'm throwing you under the bus.
Totally. I must give credit to some of the news leadership within the current affairs team at the time. I'm not sure of the delineation, if that's changed at all, because AM Live at the time fell under news and current affairs and was in fact not under SAfm. I'm not sure if that's still the case now. But we had strong leadership at that news and current affairs level of the producers, and also as my co-anchor John Perlman, who of course is an icon and is a formidable journalist himself. We held the line. We had difficult and challenging conversations, but we also felt quite strongly, Cathy, that this wasn't about us. It wasn't about AM Live. It was about the South African public and their right to information that they can trust, because that is the role of the public broadcast, is to inform, it's to educate, it's to create awareness. It is to distill and have useful debates which help inform and build society so we can make the right decisions. So those contestations were certainly taking place. None of it was easy. I saw on the email thread in the banter that we have with your team that Lebo is also still a producer. Lebo was also one of the producers at that time. So we give credit to those editorial members who were, and production members who were part of helping us back in the day. Mabi Mhlangu, you and I would know her well. We worked with her closely at ENCA, senior producer, and the late Karima Brown, who was very courageous in ensuring that the SABC followed its mandate.
Tell us about the interview, and I know this is always a difficult one, but when you look back at your time and you think, I'm never going to forget this interview, I'm never going to forget this moment or this day, what is that one memory that always, you just cannot get over it?
Sure. I always find this question difficult because it's not easy for me to answer. I mean, if you think about it, Cathy, 25 years, numerous radio interviews on the daily. It's very hard to pick. So there are a number. If I look back to my time at SAfm, so it isn't necessarily any of the big names that you mentioned, but an interview that stays with me because I recall the correctional services official that I was interviewing, and we were asking him about a very controversial decision at the time to grant Shabir Sheikh medical parole. And it was a very simple question where the Department of Correctional Services was claiming that he was ill. And I asked the said official, whose name escapes me now, I said, how do you know he's ill? Have you seen him? And I couldn't get over how stumped he was, because often it's sometimes the simplest questions which can lead one to unravel, because clearly there's something amiss or sinister here.
Isn't it funny how that story has stayed with South Africa and in many ways shaped what is happening in South Africa today, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I mentioned it in the beginning, that in what was happening 2004 then set the scene for what has unfolded over time, the ANC's own contestations internally, the breakaways that have followed since then. We had COPE and MK now. So it just completely set into motion a dramatic changes in the South African political landscape.
I want to bring in some of our listeners, Nikiwe. I'm going to start in Durban. Kulegani, good morning to you.
Morning, Cathy. Morning, Nikiwe. How are you?
I'm very well, Kulegani. How are you?
Good. I must really be firmly a red number gang now in running terms. The fact that I can remember almost all of those stories that you're mentioning,
You're giving away something, Kulegani. We'll leave that between you, myself, and Nikiwe, what that is.
And I know these days, you never know when Nikiwe says she's going for a 10, whether she's going for a 10K or 10 waves, so...
I know, right?
So it's levels. No, I'm just honestly, I'm just excited to hear your voice. That's basically it. Hope whatever you're doing well, and we're super excited to just hear your voice. Thanks.
Kulegani, thank you for that. Stan Ngobo, you're in Durban. Good morning.
Cathy, Nikiwe, great show as always. Two things I want to share with you to prove how excited I was to learn that Nikiwe will be on air this morning. I had to cancel one of my most urgent meetings to later so that I could listen to this voice. Secondly, believe me or not, I had to wake up my daughter. Her name is Nikiwe. She's at Free State University now. She's 20 years. When I was given a chance to name her, I said Nikiwe, because of the impacts that we had in our lives, Nikiwe. You may not realize it, but most of us acknowledge you. You are a veteran, you are an icon. The fact that your name now is our household name says a lot. May God bless you.
Oh, Stan, thank you so much. That is so deeply touching. And honestly, I wish Nikiwe Ugama well at university. and Stan, I'll have you know that you're not the first person to have done so. I think I've been approached by two other people over my career who said, because we used to listen to you in the morning and we thought that was such an interesting name, because it is a very old-fashioned Xhosa name. It's not very common. So when people heard it on the radio, they're like, I want to name my daughter that. And so I'm honored to share my grandmother's name with many other young South African women. Thank you, Stan.
Stan, wow, what a lovely story. You see, your iconic status is entrenched, Nikiwe Bikitsha. It's cemented. Thank you. That's a better word, cemented. Zoe, you're in King Williamstown. Good morning.
Yes, Cathy, we no longer call it. We changed it now, Corner, but it has always been Corner.
Yes, yes, of course. Go ahead, Zoe.
Hi, Nikiwe.
Hi, Zoe.
How are you, Nick?
I'm very well, thanks. And how are you?
No, I don't have much to say, but the guy has just spoken here who has named his daughter after you. I think, my impressions were also like that. You and John Penman, but not the other lady, Kabati.
Siki, yes.
Yeah. You gave me a sort of pride, man, because it was just won our democracies 10 years down the line. Then the two people who appear to be in commerce and knowing their story. So that was a very good impression that you left in our memories. So I was happy when I listened to you at that time. So I can't forget your name. But now, what if I can bump with you even if you're in Cape Town? I wouldn't know that this is Nikiwe now. But the only place that I'll never forget is, I don't know, because we have never been able to meet physically. But Siki for me, I know Siki, I can quickly connect when I see Siki.
All right, Zoe, thanks for that call and the contribution. You know, Nikiwe, and I wanted to ask you this, because at the time that you were taking over this platform, it was significant and it was consequential that you were a young African woman entrusted with this seat. Were you aware of that at the time, that just your being here was saying and doing so much for other African, in particular black women who look like you?
So, I mean, I suppose I have to step back a little bit in stepping into that role. At a reasonably young age, I had previously worked for the regional station, Prime Media's in Cape Town and Johannesburg. So even there, already, someone like Nolene Maolwana, who had been my editor, had set that standard and sense of why it was important to have that kind of representations. And Nolene, much like myself, was from Mthatha. And Nolene supported me as I made my way through the ranks at Prime Media, and in fact recruited me to come from Cape Town to Johannesburg. So that kind of representation and why it was important to have those voices was already starting to be clear. I do believe, though, once I got to SAfm and its national platform, this is the SABC, you know, this is the cradle of broadcasting in the country. Zoe is from Qongqe. Having worked at Prime Media, which was regional, to suddenly get calls from family members in Qongqe, Engobo, Kamata was extraordinary to me. The reach of the SABC in the most far-flung and remote places in the country, and to be part of those conversations increasingly became quite clear, and the import and the responsibility then that we carried, and as our country was emerging 10 years post-democracy, about what are the stories that we're going to tell about ourselves, and what is our responsibility in doing that well, in balancing, informing the audience and holding leaders to account, so that we could have the country that so many had fought for so valiantly. So there was a weight of responsibility, which over time, Cathy, certainly it increasingly became quite clear. And it was important to be mindful of it and how you conducted yourself, because people were watching. Mm-hmm.
We're going to bring more of Nikiwe in a moment. For now, it's 8:30. Time for your latest news headlines.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the National Prosecuting Authority says further arrests are expected in connection with the killing of the former mayor of Knysna, Aubrey Tsengwa. 2 suspects that were arrested yesterday will appear in the Knysna Magistrates Court today. The 5 suspects arrested for manufacturing drugs valued at more than 600 million rand at a farm in Musina will appear in the local magistrates court in Limpopo today. And alleged criminal kingpin Vusumuzi Cathy Mohlahlana is expected to return to the Matlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria this morning. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still plenty of hassles on Joburg's Mike 1 Highway this morning. A new crash now. This is just up by Smith Street, so traffic coming through from Ormonde, Boysons and Crown remains heavy. M2 from Benrose into Crown, that stays badly backed up as well, so a lot of pressure getting through that sort of downtown central Joburg area. Crash top end of the R59 at South Rand Road. That's a problem coming through from Reading into the Tulisa Park area. And a smash on the N1 South out of Pretoria. In fact, there are 2 crashes this morning. One at the R21 and then another by the old Joburg Road. So 2 queues out of Pretoria on the way through Midrand. Durban really battling this morning around Spaghetti Junction. Last check, there were 7 broken down vehicles between Mgena Road and the cement factory. So northbound really jammed up, southbound pretty bad as well with a couple of breakdowns. The N3 inbound to the new road layout at Spaghetti Junction, slow going from Pinetown from Pavilion Mall area. And that M19 sinkhole problem with the lane restrictions at Dunkel Road causing delays not only on the M19 but alternative routes through that area as well. The the M4 Umbilo up into city centre. That stays busy. And there's a big backlog this morning from Verulam. And Verulam sort of coming down into Phoenix. At R102 towards the Trade Centre junction. Very slow going. Cape Town, still plenty of pressure on the highways. The M1 inbound from Plattekloof Hill. N2 from Bunga Avenue. M3 from bottom of Wynberg Hill all the way through to the UCT exit. And the crash going out to Kales River this morning. Stellenbosch Arterial quite badly backed up into a crash between Range Road and the R102 Van Riebeeck Road. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Smart business moves save money. Switch to Outsurance Business Insurance and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. Here's Stephen from the Villa Rosa.
I was with my previous insurer for 8 years and then I switched to Outsurance Business Insurance. I'm very happy with the premiums and switching was the best decision we ever made.
Get a quote to switch and save today. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 0800 60,000. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
8:33, you're still tuned into the national briefing. Zai Khan, good morning again. So, the women's hockey team have had such a big breakthrough. They've had their first World Cup win.
Woohoo! Cathy, good news to wake up to. At least one team has given us a reason to have a good Monday. It's, yes, the South African women's hockey team. They had a World Cup win. The African champions came from behind to beat Chile 3-2. And with Captain Edith Molikwe, Nsopa Makwena and Kaylin Marie all finding the back of the net. The victory keeps the coach Inki Zondi's side unbeaten and provides quite a boost for them, especially after they've had those funding issues that they wouldn't have had made it. So, wow, this is how you come back with a score like that. Meanwhile, South Africa, the men's team were denied victory. They had a heartbreaking draw, a 3-3 draw against Malaysia. And let's go now to this story where the Springbok coach, Rassie Erasmus, saying there will be no excuse after Saturday's 31-16 defeat to New Zealand at Ellis Park. While admitting the All Blacks deserve the victory, Erasmus said the focus now shifts to responding in Cape Town.
I hear that we've got a listener that's got a bone to pick with us over the rugby.
Okay.
Good morning, team. Morning brief. Cathy and Zai, the Springboks were not match fit. We only had one preparation match against Argentina. The All Blacks had 3. So they were match fit and they showed a lot of intent. Secondly, my changes will be for Saturday. I'll bring in Kenan Moody and I will bring in Thomas de Toit and Jan-Hendrik Wessels. I will start with them and then put on the bench Wilco Low and Oxenchair. Yeah, we have a great team and we would not match fit on the day. Thank you.
Okay.
Angeline Kimberley.
Yeah, it's clearly you've thought very deeply about it. I mean, last week I said to Zai, I don't think we're going to win because the All Blacks have been eating pap and boerewors, and that's really the secret to all our winning.
There we go. It's those booty rolls they've been enjoying. Well, we're going to find out how long that's going to last, Cathy. But yes, I think the beauty of the Springboks, it's their depth. When you say pick Moody, it's a genuine selection debate, not a desperate gamble. So let's find out now what the master planner himself, Rassie Erasmus, is cooking up.
Obviously, when you look in hindsight, you say, yeah, there's a lot of things that we didn't convert it. But I think there's 2 or 3 big moments which we just let the game go away from us by not because we wanted to and not because we wanted to make those errors, but because New Zealand forced those errors onto us by being really, really intense and sharp. And then obviously we lost Kirkley and Andre had to go to, I don't want to give excuses. New Zealand just did really well by keeping us out there.
And finally, the accolades keep rolling in for South African cricket. The world champion Proteas men's test side have been crowned the SA Sports Team of the Year at the SA Sports Awards that took place in Sun City last night. Themba Bavuma's team was recognized for ending the country's long wait for an ICC title by winning the World Test Championship before making further history with the first ever Test Series victory in India. Cricket South Africa also named National Federation of the Year while Captain Themba Bavuma received the Minister's Excellence Award. And on that excellent note, we shall leave it here on the National Briefing Sport. John Henniker will be back around 12:30 with more sport. I'm Sai Khan.
The next great story, the next unforgettable goal, the next breathtaking destination, the next blockbuster movie, they're closer than you think. With SABC Plus, the very best of S3 is only one click away. Stream live or catch up wherever life takes you on your smart TV, smartphone, tablet or laptop. Register for free today. Data costs apply. SABC Plus, because S3 is never too far away.
Call SAfm now on 086 000 2032.
It's 8:38. You're still tuned into the national briefing. So I'm going to head back straight to the lines. My guest this morning, Nikiwe Bikitsha, and she's one of the voices that you are lined up to speak to. I see so many of you wanting to reconnect with her. Okay, Nikiwe, before I get back to taking calls, tell me, waking up at whatever time you used to wake up at in the morning. Did you ever get used to it? Look, I'm about 4 months into this early breakfast thing, right? I'm not a morning person, so it's taking digging deep out of me. But did you ever get used to it?
No, I never did. Can you hear the PTSD? No, I never got used to it. I really struggled, Cathy. And you know the age-old saying, there's no late in radio. I was late a few times. And that is inexcusable in radio. And one of my worst moments whenever that happened. So I struggled. I never got used to it. Maybe by the second or third year, I'd found my rhythm. Strangely, though, many years after that, when I started running and doing all sorts of things, I found it so easy to wake up. I'd be up at 4:30 and like, where was all of this when I was, wading through AM Live in 2004? So you will get used to it. Cathy, there are other morning anchors. John Pullman, for example, he didn't struggle, but he did find it, I suppose, after a while, quite exhausting. So did John Matham, I believe. So you just got to hang in there, because this is really important work that you're doing. We love hearing you on Emsakazweni, Cathy, your national duty to us. The thing that I do want to talk about, though, Cathy, before we go to the calls, is the funding and sustainability of the SABC, which ensures that public service media such as the national briefing can be sustained and adequately resourced. I think this is a critical issue that we as South Africans have to take seriously. Yes, the challenges are across the media sector, but I think the onus is on us to protect our public entity.
And please go ahead into that very subject. So many of our previous voices have also raised it, Nikiwe. The reality is that the state of the SABC today is not what it can be, and there just is not that sense of urgency around it. And the public mandate has to be funded. There is no working around it. There is no getting under it. And yet, the entities right now are very much being run as commercial entities.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a non-negotiable. And I read last week, I believe it was, that allocations for the SABC's elections coverage have not as yet been secured. That's completely unacceptable. Because people must be informed, and if the public broadcaster is to do its job well, it has to be funded to do just that. I know that various pieces of legislation, there have been debates in Parliament about the right kind of model for funding the SABC, but I think legislators are dragging their feet over this. I know South Africa has many competing interests, but I think in an age, particularly of increasing mis and disinformation, it behoves us to protect this fact-based information service that is for South Africa and the continent, so that the information that is being broadcast and shared can be trusted and can said to be true and credible. It's so critical because if we look at the kind of narratives which have gained traction about the country based on falsehoods, for example, about a so-called white genocide, it was the role of the public broadcaster to ensure that we have the truth about that, as well as GCIS, for example, to formulate a narrative that is true, that would counter those lies. That's the danger, that's the risk if we don't invest sufficiently in the public broadcaster. So I feel quite strongly about that, Cathy, and I'll wear my other hat very, very briefly as a member of the National Planning Commission. This is something that we have raised with the chair of the Digital Communications Portfolio Committee, Kusela Sangoni, who herself is equally concerned. So we are urging Parliament to take its role seriously in this regard.
Nikiwe, thank you so much for that. Let me go then to the phone lines. East London, Mvusiwe Kaya, good morning to you.
Good morning, Casey, and good morning, Madlamini. First, let me appreciate you guys for delivering a beautiful show today, and appreciate you, Casey, for bringing Madlamini back, even if it's for a few hours. We've really enjoyed her service over the years, and may she continue serving wherever she is. I mean, any product that she touches delivers great stuff. Thank you for that, Madlamini. All the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I did lose connection briefly there, Cathy, but I caught the latter part of that.
All right, awesome.
Call.
No, he was just celebrating you and thanking you for the work that you've done on the platform. So let me go to McDonald. McDonald, you're calling from Ganana. Good morning.
How are you, Cathy?
Doing well. Go for it.
No, thanks, man. Greeting to Nikiwe. I say, even after all these years, her voice still sounds lovely. Just to get straight to the point, coming to the ANC manifest, I think what the ANC does not realize is the trust deficit between the ANC and the people of South Africa. And I'm glad we have got Sismitu on the show that we have got an ANC in the past that used to be a leader of society. But today you have got an ANC that society leads and then the ANC follows. So I'm saying that with the coming local government elections, we will see a massive decline in terms of electoral support of the ANC because the trust deficit is very low. The people no longer trust what the ANC says. The people no longer trust what the ANC do. So that is going to be a major, major problem because the ANC, to me, is focused on the internal squabbles rather than on resolving the challenges of the people of South Africa.
Yeah, McDonald, thanks for that contribution. I was thinking about Nikiwe's description of how the ANC leaders were received in 2004 prior years when she was on the campaign trail. Rock stars, right? Rock star status. And look at the state today. I guess then it was unfathomable that the ANC would ever be what it is right now. JJ, you're in Polokwane. Good morning.
Good morning, Sis Cathy. It was so heartwarming. In fact, it is heartwarming to hear Sis Nikiwe on the air. We have been following her from long way back. Even when this station started by Government Ready, we have been glued to it. And to hear the voices of those who were anchors, it warms our hearts. But I was saddened by the talks that you had with Professor Adam Habib. And you tried by all means to indicate that, look, in Cape Town, there are areas where the DA is not doing good. And then you even indicated how beautiful it is for the Diepsloot area as of now, but he couldn't buy it. And from where I stand, it's because of the fight that we have been having of Africans and the whites. Nearly everything that is done by white is the best. Mpopalat was in Johannesburg. DA didn't give her the support that she needed. Lindiwe Mazibuko was in the DA. Nobody deployed her to any place where she could shine. So to me, that issue of Bantu education, which inflicted the majorities of the blacks, still exists today, and they expect us to be at the same par with them. It may sound an insult, Sis Cathy, that Africans, we were taught how to compare the cloaca of a frog and the lizard and all those type of nonsense. And when we come to the new reality now, we're expected to be on the same par across the board. It's painful. Fortunately,
yeah, but JJ, have we not? We've had 30 years. We've had 30 years in which really excellent black professionals have been produced. Surely it's not an anomaly that we should set the bar high, right?
Exactly. I'm with you there, and I accept that, and I'm working hard towards that. But what I'm saying is that we are expected right from the word go. How old is Helen Zille? With the experience that she had, it's a good experience that nobody can beat now. And we are talking about the 20 years of some of our people who went to the so-called Model C schools, some to the private schools. Those that went through the Bantu education, they will be affected in the coming 60 years.
Okay. JJ, we're going to have to leave it there. JJ out in Polokwane. Felix, you're in Mthatha. Good morning.
Morning, Etienne. How are you? Long time.
Felix, go straight for it.
In actual fact, I wanted to speak to Nikiwe.
She's on the line. She's on the line.
I'm right here. I was working with her dad at Toyota in Mthatha.
Wow, Felix,
and they were
that
staying,
takes me back.
I know she was my small little sister. They were staying in 2nd Avenue Node. And her brother was in Maritzburg. I know I used to always go and pick him up when the schools are closing. I wanted to know one thing. If mother and a brother still alive, and where are they?
Felix, thank goodness we are all still well and healthy. My mother just turned 80 recently. She is fit as a fiddle. And my brother in Johannesburg and my sister as well. So we are all very, very well. As you know, of course, my father died in 1988. But thanks for checking in and for sharing that memory. Yes.
No, but he looked after me, Nikiwe. Your father grew me up, he taught me businesses and all that. That's why I'm doing well because of him. And if you remember, you had a small little wholesalers at Volindlela Heights, and they used to teach me there too. Even at Toyota, where your dad was working, he taught me everything, everything. Nikiwe, I don't know. You can't give me your brother's number here. I would really like to speak to him, but you can take my number there by the studio.
All right. Thank you so much for that. We'll do it offline. But thank you for that.
Please, man. Thanks, Nikiwe. Send my regards to your mom.
Felix. Felix, thank you for that call. You see, you've moved Nikiwe to tears. Just was sharing that story, especially about her dad. Nikiwe, all right. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a quick break, and then we'll get into Bolton and Mzansi, and then we'll wrap up the hour with Nikiwe.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still some heavy traffic around the country at this hour. Joburg's Mike 1 North, a crash at Smith Street, very slow, coming through the Crown from Ormonde. M2 from Benrose backing into that. Also a crash on the R21 south by 4 Tracker Road. If you're on your way to the airport, queues back through the Pomona Road exit. And the smash on the M1 south in Pretoria at the R21. That's still causing a delay back through Rigel towards Garsfontein. That looks particularly bad. Durban, the N2 north under pressure. Multiple breakdowns between Cement Factory and the works at Westwood Mall, so it's jammed all the way. N2 south, multiple multiple breakdowns in Under Road to Spaghetti Junction, so that's jam. And the M19 roadworks just past the Dunkeld Road causing delays out of New Germany and Pinetown area this morning. Crash scene is the delay coming out of Verulam down towards Phoenix. It's a crash on the R102 before you get to the Trade Centre Junction. That's all very slow. Chris Harney taking a bit of diverting pressure from that Verulam Ottawa area as well. And then Cape Town, M1 inbound to the city centre's busy. M5 north still queuing up to Dick Burton at Plumstead, and then more queues through Rondebosch towards the busy N2. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 Rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. Join today. SMS SAfm to 32195. That's SAfm to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
There's been no electricity for a week because my neighbors overloaded the transformer with their illegal connection. My daughter can't study at night because my neighbor blew our transformer by bridging his meter. My neighbors have been buying electricity from illegal vendors and using it carelessly. We live amongst them and allow them to vandalize vital electricity infrastructure. We need to stop that. Report illegal connections to Eskom on 0800 112722 or the SAPS. Save your transformer. Save lives.
Built in Mzansi on the National Briefing.
It's 8:54. We're getting into our Built in Mzansi feature. Now, our guest for today is an award-winning entrepreneur, business development specialist, and education advocate. Her work focuses specifically on entrepreneurship education with young people and women. Wendy Silinyana is director of Mini Boss and Big Boss Business School, Johannesburg. Wendy, good morning to you. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Cathy, and thank you for having me.
So you are passionate about developing the future of business leaders. Tell us about the work that you've been doing in the community.
Thank you, Cathy. With Mini Boss and Big Boss Business School, we are an international business school that teaches children from a young age of 6 years about entrepreneurship, building their leadership skills, problem solving, financial literacy, and also they get to present their solutions at global audiences where they represent the country as ambassadors of South Africa.
How important is it that this exposure happens as early on as possible?
I believe, Cathy, entrepreneurship is a way of thinking, and before it becomes a way of earning. So when children learn entrepreneurship early, they not only develop their own businesses, but they develop problem-solving skills, they develop creativity, they develop communication skills, leadership, and resilience. And I believe that with our education system and the world shifting, it should be part of the education system where we are teaching children. Skills that will be practical for their future.
Tell us about the Startup Global Forum and the role that it's playing in cultivating and shaping young entrepreneurs.
So the Global Business Week, or rather the Startup World Cup Championship, forms part of the Global Business Week, which is an activity that happens or part of our program as Mini Boss and Big Boss Business School. It happens at a different country each year, and particularly this year, it was held in Switzerland, in Davos, where our students represented South Africa and showcasing the solutions that they have been building over a period of 4 months. And so this is like the pinnacle of the program, where they compete at a global stage with other mini bosses from over 35 countries and showcase the country. And this year, we won for the first time the title of the Startup World Cup Championship, with Lubanzi Dube coming first place in the competition. So for the first time in 26 years.
Wow. Wendy, what we need is that you need to get Lubanzi Dube on air, right? We need to speak to this young South African and find out what exactly it is about his ideas that caught the eye of the global community. Thank you for coming on to the show, Wendy Silinyana, Director of Miniboss and Big Boss Business School, Johannesburg. Imagine that, right? Being so young and exposed to these global audiences. There's nothing that buys that kind of experience, and it gears you up. It sets you up in terms of what is possible in the future.
Cathy Mohlahlana is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAfm Radio.
It's 8:59. Nikiwe, we're in our last minute. All things, unfortunately, good things do come to an end. To end it off, what does SAfm mean to South Africa?
Well, happy birthday to SAfm, and I wish it many, many more years. And to the point I made earlier, enough about the sincere hand-wringing and platitudes about finding a sustainable funding model for the SABC. It must be done. This is a vital institution. And to you, Cathy, I'm so proud of you. You're a class act. I'm proud of what you've accomplished in radio and television. You're amazing, and long may you thrive. Thank you so much.
You see, she knew what this was going to do to me. Thank you very much, Nikiwe Bikitsha. I absolutely adore Nikiwe, and in many ways she made it possible for me, even at ENCA. She just was such a big champion of mine. I'll always appreciate you. Thank you for everything. Nikiwe Bikitsha, ladies and gentlemen, that's where we wrap it up on the national briefing. It is 9 o'clock, time for the latest news update.
In our top stories, more arrests expected in former Knysna mayor murder case, and suspects to appear in court over 600 million rand drug bust. Good morning. The National Prosecuting Authority says further arrests are expected in connection with the killing of the former mayor of Knysna, Aubrey Tsengwa. 2 suspects arrested yesterday will appear in the Knysna Magistrates Court today. Tsengwa was shot dead while on his way home last Wednesday. One of the 3 people that were with him was wounded. Police arrested 2 suspects on Saturday. NPA provincial spokesperson Eric Ntabazalila says a search for 2 more suspects is underway. One is a former ANC councillor and the other a taxi boss. The 5 suspects arrested for manufacturing